Is James coming? Is
That's good.
James? Because then we're just a second.
Okay. I'll call the meeting to order, please. Judy, would you do the roll?
Yeah, sure. Judy Noel, Tom Schulte.
Here.
Amy Carroll.
Here.
Todd Labieri.
Here.
Michael Shin is not here. Chris Labrise away. Victor Alvarez.
Here.
Maria Weingarten is here. Yeah. Bob Hamill is away. But Colton Dobbin is here. And James Yao is hopefully coming.
He's not here now.
Not yet. But we need to see Colin for Chris.
So moved.
And
So moved. Second.
we've got,
Second.
Jamie, all in favor? Aye, opposed?
so we've got one.
Congratulations, Colin. A lot of responsibility tonight.
Right. Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Okay, we're good?
You're Laura. You can handle it.
See, no. All right. We need one,
We don't.
Tucker, we need 8,
No.
but that's quorum. But
Yeah.
but 8,
That's all we
yeah,
need.
that's what.
All we need is,
yeah,
all we need
that's
is
quorum, yeah.
5-4 quorum. Okay. Motion to approve the minutes from our September 19th meeting.
So moved.
Question?
Can
Second?
can I have a small change? Is that
Yeah.
possible?
Sure.
Okay, it's in the paragraph, we're talking about the renovation of the 220 Elm Street. In the 1, 2, 3, 4th line, it says it was subsequently determined to be more efficient to complete the full renovation now rather than have the Board of Ed. I would just like to say, Mr. Moynihan said that it was determined to be more efficient because I never understood that we were going to have a second round of renovation expenses.
Yeah, I don't think I said that. I don't think I was.
Okay. Oh,
That was,
well, somebody said it was
Yeah.
subsequently determined to
Yeah,
be
but
more efficient.
may have been the superintendent who said, someone said that, but I didn't say that.
no, but didn't he say that, that I said that,
If only we videotape these calls for these meetings. Just saying.
no, we, the Board of Finance.
Fun to
were
debate
the
it,
ones
but-
that said that it would be more efficient to complete the renovation, I believe. I'm pretty sure.
Well-
There was an edit to that, right?
I'm just trying to reflect that, when it was put forth to us initially, I thought it was 750 was sufficient to
I did too.
renovate.
I did too.
Okay,
That's why I wouldn't have said that.
okay.
Was it Brian?
Because
You
Amy and
think
I
it said
talked
that?
about that. It was my understanding, 750 was the cost of renovation.
Yeah.
So
So what do you want to say?
I don't know, just how was it subsequently determined? I don't know. That's, it was surprised. We were surprised.
I don't know, were there
I was surprised.
conversations or what?
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't remember.
Amy, what's your request?
I'm just trying to figure where the subsequent came from.
If we're not sure, let's just go to the tape and correct it for the next meeting. I don't want to debate it. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
exactly.
Yeah, thanks. Good,
So
thank you.
let's just table that one then.
Okay,
We'll go and we'll check it and we'll get it right. Okay, in terms of the agenda, we are going to move the library up. They've got a board meeting, so I would invite Lisa and Bob. You want to come? Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
We are here today to discuss the possibility of a loan relating to the legacy project in the library. And I'll start by giving you a little background with respect to the overall projects, and then everyone can sort of understand how this fits in. First of all, the library right now has 2 projects, a main project and a legacy project. And they're both linked together closely. However, they are financed separately. Both of them have 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Now, in the main project, we have completed phase 1, which is the construction of the library building. The punch list is 99% completed. It's up and operational since February, doing great, explosive growth, a lot of good things to talk about. Phase 2 now is the completion of the green, the terraces, the landscaping, and the perimeter of the whole property. That is underway and is on schedule to be completed by year end, December 31st. Okay, as part of this overall project for the library, the second project, if you will, is the legacy project. That has two phases. The first phase of the legacy project was in essence to design and develop a plan for moving the building from its location on the property where it was originally located for years and years and years, up into a new location so that we could build the green. And that was a stipulation given to us by P&Z as part of a town mandate to complete the project. So we're now in phase one, and essentially what that involves, if you will, is we hired Wolf Movers. We elevated the building, moved it up to its new location. So the idea was to get it stabilized on that foundation, weather tight, stub out all the utility, do all the drainage. But in essence, phase one leaves it an incomplete building. Phase two, on the other hand, which we'll be undertaking a fundraising project for in the future, will involve new windows, a metal roof, and a finished interior with HVAC, water, bathroom, etc. However, at this point in time, we only have conceptual plans. We do not have any plans at this point in terms of the purpose of the building. So phase two will require some further discussion amongst everyone, and then planning down the road. And we expect to hopefully have that completed within a 3-year time frame. But we're still going to try and complete, but obviously we are going to complete phase one of that project at year end. So both projects, the main building and the legacy building, will have a completion date by 12/31, and we are on schedule and on budget for both of those. Okay. So the overall new building, you're looking at the finances, we are 93% done with the GMP contract, and we are on or below budget on that. So we have a remaining $2.5 million roughly to be paid. And that is scheduled to be completed by at least January or February based on the billing of Turner Construction. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if you're looking at how we're going to pay for that, we have $3.8 million of pledges receivable. We have $1.3 million of pending gifts, which are undocumented, basically gifts and donor advised funds, and another $1.1 million in cash, and another 300 or so of pending fundraising. So in essence, that rolls up to $6.5 million. And if we look at our loan that we have outstanding with the library now, we have borrowed $4 million out of a $10 million construction loan agreement. And that loan agreement has been in place since last spring. Okay, so the issue here is, how do we finance the completion of the project with the legacy building? And at this point in time, the library has used its own capital to get the project underway, to do all the design work with Centerbrook, all the engineering work with the consultants, and to hire Wolf Construction to move it to its current location. We also signed a GMP with Turner to complete phase one, but phase one only. We have spent of our own capital $1.4 million to date. We require another $700,000 to $800,000 to finish phase one, and we don't have that capital anywhere at the library. So this is why we're coming before you to request a loan. Now, the good news is that we've been so successful and on target with our fundraising on the main project that the $10 million line of credit, if you will, is contemplated to be reduced to $5 million. So we borrowed $4 million. We may potentially need another $1 million if, in fact, the timing of our receivables, our pledge receivables, don't match the expenses. But we don't anticipate needing any more of the proceeds in that original loan beyond the 5 million. So we're going to cut that in half. On the other hand, we'd like to suggest that we create a similar structure and loan for the legacy building such that we can raise or borrow, up to $2 million for that, of which 1 million will be borrowed shortly, because we're going to need that again to finish by December 31st and pay the outstanding bills. And then 1 million would be essentially held in reserve for borrowing capacity once it's determined what the purpose and the fit out of that building is going to be. So in essence, the total line of borrowing in combination for both buildings would be no more than 7 million, and hopefully maybe 5, to the extent that we fundraise and start a fundraising project with the legacy building and we're able to raise money to offset the borrowing. And certainly from the library's perspective, we don't want to go into any more debt than we have to. So we're currently 4 million in debt with the town on the main project. We know we're going to need to go 1 million in debt on the legacy building, but we need the capacity for 2. So in some worst case scenario, we would be borrowing 7 million, but certainly we have an agreement in place for 10 now. So we've reduced it by 3 overall, worst case, and hopefully by 5 million or more. Amy.
Did I hear you right? Did you say you're coming in $2.5 million under the GMP? Did I hear that right?
Under, but we didn't say how much.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wrote down 2.5.
No.
Yeah.
No, we have $2.5 million remaining of the GMP.
Oh, and you have work to get
Yeah.
done.
So
Okay.
the GMP is 93% paid.
Right.
And the 2.5 is the remaining bills estimated at Turner Construction to complete the project, 100% by December 31st.
And you might have something left over.
And we might have
Don't
something
know.
left over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote down 2.5, but I think that's
Yeah.
clarification. Okay, good.
So you pulled down your endowment to help fund moving the building?
First, our capital. So our savings that we use for repairs,
Okay.
maintenance, all of that.
Okay.
But then, yes, we did also dip into our endowment.
Okay. But so in looking for additional borrowing, you're not looking to replenish your endowment right now. You're just trying to borrow the bare minimum. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're taking.
The idea is we don't want to use our endowment to finance this remaining $750,000 needed to get the building stabilized and up on its current location.
Right.
And we've already tapped into it to roughly 50,000 just to pay the most recent monthly bills.
So maybe a quick question. Maybe this is a question for you.
Okay.
What's in front of us is to approve an amendment to the line of credit. And I think what you've walked through, if I understand it, is our original line of credit was 10 million. You used 4.
Right.
You probably need another 1, call that 5. You have phase 1 of legacy that I heard was 800,000, but maybe you're rounding to 1 million, 6. And now the remaining 1 million for the unknown phase 2 of legacy, TBD.
Right.
Okay. So what you're right.
So we've on the legacy building, we've spent 1.4 million of our own capital.
I know that. I'm not
Okay.
going there. I'm asking about
the remaining amounts would be $1 million to complete it, give or take. It could be obviously a little bit less, but
Phase 1.
for phase
Phase
1.
one.
And then
And-
phase 2 would be an additional 1 million.
So the reduction, what we're asking for is maybe 2 things. We're asking to reduce the line of, sounds like good news. The line of credit, which was originally 12 or something like that, is down to 10, is now down to 7. If I hear this right, that's
Well,
Down to
No, it's
5.
5.
All-in exposure would be 7, but the line of credit for the
would be
new
5.
building would be reduced. to
okay.
5.
That's the question.
Yeah.
So you were not using the line of credit for the 2.
No, the 2 set based on the MOU, that was originally separating the financing of these two
Yeah.
buildings.
Yeah.
We couldn't combine anything. So
Yeah.
Right.
in essence, we're replicating as closely can appropriate
Okay.
documents
Okay.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
a new
it's-
loan facility.
Right. So what we ultimately settled on, although when the conversation started, we were north of 10. We agreed on a facility that was 10. And again, it's not technically a construction loan. What we're doing is we're filling in the timing gap between receipt of the pledges and collection of the pledges, right? And so as it turns out throughout, and with the incredible generosity of the town and your ability to engage with that generosity, you're only taking down 4. What they're asking is, now that they have capacity to go up to 10, they're saying, reduce that to 5. So cut it in half. They are asking for, it's a little bit of a detail here, but they are asking for that additional $1 million to have the loan period extend for an additional 12 months.
Okay, that's 2.
And again,
Yeah.
that is only in the event that the timing of the collection of the anticipated pledges to be received don't match up well with the remaining invoices that trickle in on the new building. So, you know, hard to describe a better scenario and stewardship, in my view.
I just want to make sure we're.
So that's on the new building. And then, so now you go to, well, what are we doing on the legacy building? So the legacy building, there's phase 1, which is move it and stabilize it and make it a blank canvas. If I'm understanding, I'm kind of putting words in your mouth. So that is costing anywhere between 2.2 to 2.5 million, of which you spent $1 million for. You're looking at another 800,000 to $1 million to finish the so-called phase 1 work, right?
Yeah.
So the vision hasn't been fully developed and embraced, but it's where it needs to be. It's stabilized. You know, it's the blank canvas. We know where we're headed with all that. And so for that, they need to address this 800,000 or $1 million that's going to come in. And then there's, well, so what are we doing for the second, phase 2? And so with that, what they've asked for is $1 million in order to, well, I mean, there's a variety of reasons that we can describe, but basically that's to make sure that the town understands that we're behind this phase 2. You know, in some ways the town itself, you know, created or imposed this obligation on the library, like you got to have this legacy building and so whatnot. So they figured out a way for it to fit inside the green, et cetera, and so forth. And again, that money is there to help finance the delta between the pledges and when they're collected, right? And so, you know, there's some details around that, but the idea is that loan facility would be virtually identical to the loan facility that we set up. So it would be secured by all of the pledges that are made with respect to the legacy building. It would be secured by a negative pledge on the entire facility. Notably, we have inserted a provision that would cross default the 2 facilities, but they would enjoy their own standalone collateral, right? And it is also proposed that it would be secured by a pledge of the endowment.
The unrestricted endowment.
The unrestricted portions of the endowment, so that the legacy building, the $2 million line of credit, would have that additional item of collateral.
So thanks for that. That's great. And it needs to be said, great job doing what you did. I mean, the building's amazing, and the fundraising was, I think, exceeded everybody's expectations. The fact that we're cutting the line of credit in half is really remarkable. So kudos to that. Let's not lose some sight of that. And the other is, of course, I think you alluded to this, Tom. This is sort of an unfunded mandate that got handed your way. So we've got a problem. We got to solve it. I think we get all of that. I just want to also tie, though, these actions to this approval. So there's 2, really, just make sure I get this right. There are really 2 approvals here. There's one is to change the line of credit. And I think we're talking about having the construction line of credit go from 10 to 5. That's one.
Go to 10 to 5.
And then there's a
Push
loan.
out the borrowing deadline.
Push
by
the date a
12
year.
months.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
And then there's a building loan agreement and promissory note for $2 million, right? For both phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is not have an eyesore in town, which is what it is. And then phase 2 is to do something undetermined. I think that's a question with how do we keep strings attached to that $1 million? I appreciate that we're trying to seed the funding.
Yep.
I think that we recognize it needs heat and it needs windows, it needs all those things, but I don't think we can just say, here's $1 million blank check for purposes unknown. So how do we connect the building committee and the board with getting approval before $1 spent of that $1 million?
So the proposal was that you could not use the legacy building loan facility as proposed until such time as the design and proposal for the full legacy building was approved and reduced to a GMP contract for that phase 2 by the library building committee, of which there are members of this body and others who are on there. And so our representatives, our proxies would have a say in that, would participate in that, would have been, participating in all the development discussions around those approvals. And so the thinking is once that approval happens, then we would say, yeah, now we know, right? So that way the $1 million would have some restrictions on it until there is a vision that has been reduced to a guaranteed maximum price contract from Turner.
Hey, Tom, just go through so the entire potential loan for phase
for the legacy
1 and 2 is $2 million, right?
Up to 2.
Correct.
But okay, except they're going to need 710,000 to go to phase 1, correct?
Correct.
So in terms of their access to that, they obviously won't have a build out. So is there, in the 2 million, is it, up to 1 million for phase 1?
Correct.
Okay. And then tap for this phase 2, the additional based on how I figured out. Okay.
And the 710,000 number is an estimate at this point. It could very well be 800,000.
Sure.
So there's
million.
really 2 separations. Phase 1, phase 2, each has $1 million loan capacity associated with them.
Right.
And as Tom mentioned, we would come back with a separate GMP contract with a contractor relating to phase 2, which would be approved by the building committee and representatives from town.
Yeah, and not to get low, so the whole thing is potentially 2, and if you need whatever 7 or 8. The additional 200,000 that would be available into the additional $1 million or not for the new building.
Well, I would think the entire, here's the way to think about it. The entire 2 million would be available for the entirety of the project. Yeah. Again, realize they can only borrow money against invoices submitted. Yeah. So it can't be like, oh, well, we want to do this, we want to do that. It's like, no, we've incurred these expenses, and it's either in connection with the GMP or related to soft costs or whatnot. But, my view is the commitment to make advances would be $2 million. No part of that could be used for phase 2 of the legacy building until that was reduced to an agreement that's been approved by the library building committee. So if they only use 800,000, my view is the $1.2 million would be available for phase 2. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be
I'm not sure the language in this number 5 actually reflects what we're talking about at enough level of detail. Yeah. I mean, we can get there. I'm not saying we can't, but I don't think we can just. We ought to say we're going to reduce line of credit from 10 to 5. We ought to be specific, I think, in what we say. And the same thing with the note is 2 million for those specific things with what you just said around the strings attached to the second $1 million. Okay.
And then I guess the other thing just to bear in mind is, again, the collateral that secures the proposed $2 million line would be a collateral pledge of all of the pledges that are raised and acquired by the library in their capital campaign when they start going out. And I believe you already have at least one.
We do have one $250,000 pledge over 5 years to start it. Yeah.
And then, in addition, it would be secured by a pledge of the endowment, and it would be secured by the negative pledge you have over the whole facility. And just for a point of reference, the collateral security for the new building line was a pledge, again, of the donation, gifts, and pledges associated with the new building project. together with a negative pledge overall and everything. So the idea was, and what we've been working on the documents, is to make them as close as possible to what we did before, because it's a mechanic that obviously people are comfortable with. It seemed to work out well, and it seems like there's, sufficient comfort there for us.
Okay, I think we have the state of play. Questions, other clarifying questions, concerns, thoughts?
Can you remind me what the interest rate is computed at?
Yeah, I actually looked it up today.
Yeah.
So first of all, as we relate to the legacy building, which I think is what you're asking, it's the 10-year muni taxable rate, which today was 3.5%.
Tax exempt.
No, taxable on.
Tax exempt.
Yeah.
On the new building, I think it was exempt.
Well, we have it written as taxable in the.
No, the legacy loan will be taxable.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm
I thought
talking.
you said the
Okay,
new building.
so on the new building,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
On the new building, it's two different tranches at 2.1% and 2.9.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the legacy building, as it's written, would be a 10-year taxable muni rate, AAA, which is 3.5 as of today,
Yeah.
plus a 25 basis point spread.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No. The tax exempt currently is 3.5. The taxable is 5.
Has to be higher.
The 10-year is 5.3. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
What I saw, and I just happened to look it up this afternoon, was I thought a taxable rate, a national taxable 10-year muni rate at 3.5. But whatever it is, it is. I mean, we're certainly grateful for the financing as it stands, and we understand market rates are market rates.
Yep.
And we're not going to borrow any more than we need.
Right.
Well, okay, to review where we are on the new building set, change the line of credit from 10 million to 5.
Right.
On the legacy, we're talking about a loan promissory note up to $2 million. And we're extending the term 1 year. We can't forget that.
the advance period.
Right. The
Yep.
advance period 1 year. And then on the building loan promissory note, $2 million. I think we should up to $2 million spread out through phases 1 and 2.
Yep.
Right.
With recommendation around how that money's spent and so forth. That's where we are.
I thought it was 25. We were extending the legacy building to 2025. Where did I read that? Is that wrong?
I think that's probably right.
Is that not correct?
No. So the initial structure of that was a amortization of a 10-year loan starting in August of 2025, where we'd start paying it down. I don't think that structure probably is the most applicable, but I think we'd want to mirror what we're doing on the main building, which is to take all the proceeds that we receive from the pledges and
Right.
have
As in
the
one
town have a
collective.
first call on interest in that until we've paid the thing down. There's no intent to hold a 10-year note here over the length of the period, amortized down.
But if we do taxable, you can prepay without breakage.
Correct. This is a very important thing.
Yeah.
If we had gone the bonding route in the prior agreement, which split the $10 million line into a $5 million from the general fund and $5 million from bonding, we would have had no ability to prepay it down or defease the loan. So in this case, what we're talking about in the $2 million can be prepaid down in the exact same structure we've done
Right.
with the main building. And that's our intent. As the donations come in, we would just be paying down the loan, interest first, then principal.
What would the loan period be for the legacy loan?
It is structured now over a 10-year period because it's modeled after a 10-year note.
So it's 10 years, but it has mandatory repayments as collections are received. So they have to pay when they get, but it will have a bullet at the end of the maturity. In terms of when they can draw the loan, the so-called commitment period, where we're obligated, if they ask for money and satisfy the conditions, we have to give them the money. That period, I think we had as 27.
Correct.
You had a completion date of 26, but you wanted that, the 1 year that we're giving them on the new building. you know, that just in case the timing doesn't work,
Yeah.
we were going to try to build that mechanic
Right.
in for the legacy building loan so that they got to be done by calendar year 26, calendar year end. But we were going to give them an additional 12 months if they had, again, some invoices trickling in and the timing and the receipts of the pledges didn't match up. They could still have that extra 12 months to borrow and hit those.
Correct.
So that loan period for the legacy loan,
27.
2027.
Yeah.
And that's enough time for you to figure out what to do with the old building.
We certainly hope so.
Who is approving the use of the building or the plan for the building? Is that the internal board and representatives from the town, or are you coming back with
It'll be the building committee.
Yeah, the building committee, it would be an internal decision. The building is owned by the library. So at this point in time, we have a building committee composed of members of the board as well as outside members of the community overseeing it.
Chris is on it.
Chris Labrie is on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And in the event of default, it doesn't say here that it will revert to the town, and that's what we're supposed to be entered into in Article 5 of the original loan document.
Is that because we've got the collateral there spelled out?
I saw that. And why is that different than the Article 5, which is referred to in another document?
I don't know. We'd have to take a closer look. The one thing.
Shouldn't it be the same, or is this just about? Pardon?
Doug Lamonte's on. The town's lawyer is on.
Why is
Paul.
that written up as collateral instead of?
So what section are you in? You're in section 5?
Well, it's not, that was the original. It was Article 5 was in the original loan agreement, but this is when it says here on page construction loan agreement.
The credit
Was
loan
it that
agreement
one or here?
under
Maybe it was
events
on-
of default.
It was, hold on.
What's Article 5?
That was in the original loan agreement. It was supposed to revert to the town. And in this one, it, hold on. I should, here, on 2 of 5, on the credit promissory note, it refers to the collateral and not the reversion. Is that what it's meant to be, or are we reversing or changing the terms, or?
I think we're changing it to, because we have enough money to cover the default with the endowment.
So, but then why are you referring to collateral? Is that not being raised? That's what it says. That's why I wasn't clear.
Endowment.
So the collateral is composed of 3 components. One is the endowment. One is the pledges receivable that will be coming in under this new capital campaign. And then there's a third component to it, which is, I can't really recall what the third component is, but worded.
You get a negative pledge.
No, the negative pledge, correct.
All right, that doesn't need to be edited, or are you comfortable that that's, I mean, are we comfortable that that's covering?
Well, is Doug on? You can ask a question?
Yeah, I mean.
Why don't you ask it?
Oh, there he is. Hi.
How big's the endowment?
I'm sorry, I'm ready to answer a question, but I'm not sure what the question is, so perhaps you could help me.
It refers to the events of default down on page 2 of the promissory note, which is quite different from the Article 5 of the original 10-year, the 10 million, excuse me, not 10-year, 10 million document, loan agreement document. And does that sufficiently cover the town? I mean, because it was supposed to be a reversion if there was a default, so that the town would own, in this case, I guess, just the building. But in the terms of the library, it was the library and the property.
Well, I think to apples to apples, we would have to compare the line of credit promissory note for the legacy building project to the construction line of credit promissory note for the new building. So
I mean, I'm just questioning whether that sufficiently covers the town. We talked about this 3 meetings, and then we all voted to enter that, and that's not even clear in this language either that was signed.
Well, I guess I don't personally see an inconsistency between that section of the note and the loan agreement. We can certainly look at it, Judy. I mean, the way I'm reading this note, it says if any of the enumerated items happen here, we can, as a lender, accelerate the debt. If you accelerate the debt, then the entire outstanding amount, together with interest, becomes due and payable. Right. And then you have remedies under your security documents, whatever they are, right? So your remedies under the security documents is, I can grab the amounts in the bank accounts. I can, do all those sorts of things and start repaying myself. I can start to refuse to honor future requests for borrowing. I'm not sure, Doug, maybe you can let us know whether or not we had any right of reversion under the new building loan to get the entirety of the project to come to the town. I just don't remember if that was a feature.
It doesn't read that way.
Right.
I don't recall the project coming to the town, because I would suggest to bear in mind the town does not own the land or the building. So I'm not quite sure what it would mean for the project or the building to come to the town.
Well, it's one more building we don't need, but certainly we hope there's, good use out of it. But I just wondered if that was, because it's different than the original.
There's remedies in the event that there's a default under this facility. There's also what happens to the assets of the library if they become insolvent. And maybe that's where your question was.
That's probably the better question, right?
Right. That's something that's different. I mean, we have enumerated collateral in the security documents that Doug and the library's lawyer, Brian, have sorted out. And so if there's a default under here, we can exercise remedies under the law to go and grab that collateral. The larger issue is, the library is sitting on, this asset, and what happens in the event that the library becomes insolvent. And I think there was a question about that back when we put this loan facility together. I'm not sure where that went, but that might be in your charter, something like that.
It is. And
am I remembering this correctly?
If it gets wound up, it gets offered to the municipality first. Should you not want it, then there's a whole list of what the options are.
Okay. And where is that? That's not in Article 5.
No, it's in the library charter.
It wouldn't be
we're a 501c3. So
okay, all right. So it's in the library charter. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're an association library, and if we cease to operate, it would revert back to the town and become a municipal library.
Well, certainly that's
basically,
yeah.
The
town could refuse, and if there are other options.
So are we happy with the this amendment to the loan agreement as written? Covers all the things we just talked about today, the reduction of the line of credit, the addition $2 million for the legacy. Is this, we can move a motion on just this document?
The amendment.
No, you have to move this forward to the town council for the November meeting. So
yeah,
there's 3 documents.
I would say
there's actually additional collateral.
So is it multiple motions, or do we have everything we need?
This is an amendment to an existing construction loan agreement.
Yep.
And then there's the new loan agreement,
brand new loan agreement,
and then there's a new note.
And a new note.
Don't believe that we provided all the security agreements.
Yeah. I think if there's any changes, it should.
Yeah.
Say again, Colm?
You probably want to move on all.
I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that those are what we're comfortable with. And what those are that we just got today or yesterday. Okay.
And if it makes some sense, it can be subject to Chris and I working with the library to make sure that, some of these things all fall in the way that it's been described. So for example,
Yeah, that makes sense.
some of the accounts to be pledged have not yet actually been opened yet. And those things, it's sort of, cleanup. But
Yeah,
All
the
right.
document refers to that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but over the course of whatever, before this goes into the town council, it seems to me, let's fine tune that, get those things together. I mean, Doug did a commendable job of getting these things awfully close as it was with Brian's help. So, but that makes some sense.
Okay, again, just want to be clear, we've got
Yeah,
3
I know.
documents to move. I want to make sure we can do that in one motion. I'm happy to do that, but I want to make sure these are as advertised. We're all in agreement that no more questions on these 3 documents, because that's what we're going to move.
I'm curious, has the Board of Selectmen looked at this, Kevin?
We approved them last Tuesday. We've made some changes since last Tuesday, but we approved it to move it on to the Board of Finance.
Yeah.
Were they expecting to have it returned for another approval? That was sort of
No.
No?
No.
All right. Okay.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we can put into as a motion the approval of these 3 documents.
Right.
Going once? Okay.
Do we have to do that with the provision that you guys are going to tighten it up? Or are we okay with how it's written?
Well, it says.
I think it probably makes some sense for, if we think we need it. I will be having conversations with Doug and Brian
Yeah.
and probably Chris, just to make sure that this stuff all kind of finds its way into the agreement
The
the way
right
it
spots,
should.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we could approve it subject to no
Separate.
material changes.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Do you want to read a motion then, Judy?
Well, we don't
You
have. it.
kind of have it here. Well, you can say this, these 3 document motion to approve. I'm just going to,
Okay,
the
no,
first
go
amendment to
ahead.
the construction loan, the line of credit agreement, and the line of credit promissory note. Subject to no further revisions.
Right.
Material
Anything else you
changes.
want to edit into that, Tom?
No, I think subject to Colm's idea about there being no material changes. That sounds fine to me.
Okay. Want to
Alright.
read that?
Yep.
Right.
Judy,
Well, I
do you
didn't,
have it?
I didn't do it that way. I said, approval of documents, which is the line of credit promissory note, the line of credit loan agreement, and the first amendment to the construction loan agreement, subject to no further material changes. Any edits, Tom, to that?
No, that sounds
Is
good.
that good? All right.
Motion to approve.
All right.
Colm, second. Tom,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No,
So moved.
Okay.
so moved.
Woo-hoo.
Great
Thank you.
job.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
I have
Let's
a question. In phase 1, does it get settled down to the foundation? Yeah. I just,
they're gonna be moving up the turf around.
cool.
They're repurposing all the old foundation stones.
Huh?
and rebuilding
Yeah.
them.
Oh, cool. So it's off the metal right now? Okay,
So
cool.
both things, pull the metal out,
Cool. Thanks.
thank you. Okay, let's do the Tucker. Say again? No, hang on. We have to do the first selectman's update,
Yeah.
which we skipped. Then I thought we were going to yield
You.
the gentleman from I don't know how I don't even, can't even come up with a good one for you.
Chairman of the Conservation Commission.
I know, but it was, we were just having some fun earlier. So we're going to bring his minutes back. But why don't you go first and give us your update? And we'll go to Chris.
Okay, I really don't have much from September 19th. The capital projects are all in motion as I described.
Mhm.
PD, the NACUA program is working along as I described, and we what else? The reval date came on October 1st. We're looking to get those processes out to tell people what their new revals will be at the end of November. And then, as you may have read, the Board of Selectmen last Tuesday agreed to issue an RFP on the Divine Cottage because we have an unsolicited offer for that building. So that's all I have.
Okay. All right. What, you want to come on up, Chris? Did you have just a couple minutes?
Very short.
Okay.
Hearing words, right? My name is Chris Shipper. I'm coming before you as chair of the Conservation Commission and also ex officio board member of the Land Trust. I've come bearing gifts. It's,
Oh, that's where this came from.
Yeah.
sometimes
Is it New Canaan?
We love it.
it's sometimes hard to, show a tangible benefit of protecting open
There
space,
you
but
go.
you can put beehives on pollinator pathway meadows and generate honey. People get to appreciate it.
There you go.
Sometimes we take for granted fresh air and clean water and shade and cooling. Here's a tangible example. I'm here to come back based on a discussion we had many months ago when the Board of Finance authorized $150,000 to support the Land Trust acquisition of 1124 Valley Road. And you suggested October was a nice quiet time to bring up the subject of adding capital to the Land Acquisition Fund. And in that time frame, I have spent some time looking at the numbers and have come up with what I believe is an elegant solution for you to consider. The solution
Just
is
so you know, just to be clear, not on the agenda, can't vote on it or anything like that.
Understand,
But we'll
but-
take the input and maybe come back in November if we can put it on the agenda.
I won't be
to
able to
discuss.
come back in November, and after that, I will no longer be chair of the Conservation Commission. So
Okay.
I'm taking my quick public
Okay.
speak moment here to get to you. But let me just explain in very simple terms so that you can answer or have any questions. We looked at 11 years of conveyance fees. You should know the history is the fact that the town can charge a 25 basis point real estate sales conveyance fee was through a Connecticut statute that allows it. And the legislative intention of that statute was the town would use those monies to preserve open space for future generations. To date, that's not what has happened. A little further on, the town council passed a resolution to create a land acquisition fund. That happened in 2017. In that time, the town has only managed to accumulate $150,000 in that fund over 5 years, which is comparable to some small contingencies on various projects we do. In looking at the problem, one of the things I suggested was taking some of those 25 basis points and putting it towards an open space fund, and it met with some resistance. So what I'm suggesting is that if you look at the experience over the past 11 years, conveyance fees averaged $1.6 million a year, with a low of around $1 million and a high just above $2.5 million. What I'm going to suggest is a mechanism, fairly elegant, that says the first $1 million of conveyance fees goes to the town. Anything above that gets split 60-40, town 60, the land acquisition fund 40. And the mechanism is such that in the cyclicality, given it could go down to as low as $1 million and as high as $2.5 million, the cyclicality is an automatic stabilizer for the town in terms of its revenue. The mechanism would have yielded, if I did it over the past 11 years, it would have yielded 1.6 million in total in average conveyance fees, of which 246 or 250,000 would have gone into the land acquisition fund per year. The split then, if you add that, take that number, it would have meant that 85% of the conveyance fee goes to the town and 15% would go into the land acquisition fund. It would have funded the land acquisition fund at a rate of approximately $250,000 a year, which is a kind of a number that if you think about the leverageability, if the town can come up with $250,000, the state often can come up with $500,000. The land trust can often get a bargain deal, and the town has in a position to put money aside. So I bring this algorithm to your attention. I hope that you will find a way to do it because it has automatic stabilizers in it. It doesn't make it makes the effort less complicated every year, because we always go through the whole discussion and then it's 50, 10, 1, 0, nothing. Where do you get to? I think it meets the legislative intent. It meets the goals accumulating a land acquisition fund. And over 10 years, you might have $2.5 million, which is not a big amount of money, but very leverageable in terms of doing deals. So with that, I leave it
Thank you.
in your able hands.
What I will promise it'll be on our agenda in the budget when we get to the budget process, because I can't
Please.
change it now. But because of that, and we all love conserving the land. I think we do. So we appreciate the idea and the algorithm to get there.
And the persistence.
Yes.
Can you just help me? What exactly was the legislative?
Lowell
direction?
Weicker put it through. It was created because at one point, towns had to pay almost like a stamp tax to the federal government on real estate transactions. And then the federal government said, we're going to give that up. And they gave the states the opportunity to absorb it. The states took it on in 1967 and said, well, we'll create a statute that allows towns to now garner those funds. But the legislative intent, based on the record, as Lowell Weicker said, so that you preserve land for future generations.
Just one thing, though, to say, and I think it needs to be said. We spent $20 million on Irwin.
Pardon me?
We spent $20 million on Irwin.
I agree.
Okay. So we have spent a lot of money on open space in this town over the decades. So I don't want to make it sound like we're not using the 25 points and so forth. We buy when we should, or when we can, or when it makes some sense. I think we got to give the town a little credit for preserving.
I give the town credit for the
20 million.
transactions
20 million.
done. 67 in 1967, Waveney Park, and in 26 under Judy's leadership, 2006, Irwin Park. But there are a lot of other transactions out there, and the ability to find,
of course,
land without having a ready tool, or at least being able to point to the town as a ready partner, because there are very few land deals that will wait for the deliberation process without thinking something there's going to be real there, without a real sense of it. So in that time, the land trust has also accumulated 400 acres. So it does work, the system.
No, fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Still wouldn't,
Oh, yeah,
still
sure.
wouldn't have
I
been
just
enough.
wanted to say I want to thank Chris, because
Yeah,
I've met
exactly, absolutely.
several times now,
Oh, huge.
and he has been really persistent, and he's extremely thoughtful on this. The only thing I wanted to ask you to say, Chris, is can you just compare the other towns around here and what they're doing versus what New Canaan's doing?
There are a range of programs out there. Fairfield has a program where if a property is potentially repossessed, they automatically take a look at that property and take that over as open space, or take the fundings. There are towns that are now accepting payment in lieu of open space. There are towns that if the town sells a property, say that little piece on East Street, or gives a lease of open space, say to Aquarian, those funds go into the open space funds. It's a host of mechanisms, and our town has tended to take on debt to do a big deal. But the truth is, many of these deals going forward are small. And the other issue is, if the town has this land acquisition fund, it puts you in a position to step up with state funding. They look at this as a scoring mechanism, and it's 25 points. It can take you from a rating of 70 to 105 and move you to the top of the list. So there are many mechanisms.
Darien, I thought that island that they bought didn't have anything to do with this. I thought that was an appropriation.
I think that they're working through that. The 85 million.
Yeah, 85 million. That's not 18.
They have any kind of fund.
It's not $1,800 a month.
Yeah. I think
it's a real.
In hindsight, Waveney Park was a fantastic buy.
Yeah.
And I think in hindsight, Irwin Park is a fantastic buy.
Fun fact. Ready?
Pardon?
Fun fact.
I'm sorry.
Are you ready for a fun fact?
Yeah.
Yes.
Irwin was a smaller percentage of the grand list than Waveney at the time.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Isn't that
Yeah.
yes.
Think about that. I mean, the Waveney thing was a bigger percentage of the grand list to go
Many
after.
people misperceive that. They think, oh, we're going to lose all this tax revenue. It's not the case. Much of this open space isn't contributing a lot of taxes in the
But it wasn't about the taxes. It was just it was that as big as Irwin was, Waveney was actually a bigger deal. As a percentage of the grand list. So, Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And thanks for, of course, keeping this front and center. We appreciate that.
I hope you find our gift in good taste.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Da-da-dum.
Okay, Andrew, I'm so excited for this. You have no idea.
On for this, right?
Got 5% interest rates now.
Aren't we all?
I'm gonna join, or I'm gonna share my screen on the Zoom. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'll zoom in.
Did you print? Do we have something from him?
No.
Okay.
Darn.
You didn't send us that. Can you send us this or?
Yeah, not a best practice.
And then you can forward. Perfect.
You have to walk us through because obviously we can't read that, but
Sure.
no worries.
We'll start with a couple of interesting charts and tables. Yeah, first I'm going to send this to.
Yep.
Sorry, folks, bear with me. Send this to Ann.
Maybe while I'm doing that, Tiger Man said he said that about it was subsequently determined. Back to the minutes.
Say it again. Sorry.
Tiger stated that when we go back to the minutes.
I was wondering.
Tiger who said that.
Okay.
All right, you want to just take subsequently out? I mean, that could be the answer, right?
Well, Tiger said he said that verbatim. So Mr. Mann.
Oh, he said that.
Right,
Oh,
so Mr.
okay.
Mann,
All right.
that paragraph
That'd be good.
said-
Okay.
All right.
I'll just change he said.
To Tiger. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's interesting.
All right, so I just sent it to Ann. So she'll share it with all of you. But first, we can talk about some of these charts which don't require too much squinting.
Okay. Yep.
So
take us through it.
I thought it was important just to show where interest rates are, because that's really the big, the biggest factor when thinking about cash management for our town. And as you can see, we've had a huge spike over the past year. Over on the right here, I have a table just showing all the rate hikes since 2022, including the most recent one in July. And you can see that it's at the highest point it's been at in nearly 20 years. And so as a result, our strategy has changed. We were buying when rates were zero, a lot of agency issued securities, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. That's where the yields were. Treasuries were at rock bottom. Now treasuries are the preferred asset. So as a result, I've been buying a lot of shorter term securities because, treasuries, because we need the cash eventually to pay bills later in the fiscal year. And I don't want us to be locked up for too long. So I have, a portfolio that's pretty short term. What I have here, though, this is all the interest income. Before I get to that, I'll just show.
Andrew, how short term? Because I know the money comes in chunks, right? Twice a year.
Right.
And so is it 3 months? You're kind of averaging it?
Generally around 3 months, though I've been taking funds that become, that mature from some of these older agency issued securities that were, much lower yields. Mm-hmm. As those come due and there are tranches coming due over the next 2 years, I'm then taking them and parking them now in longer term.
What's longer term?
Like 12-month treasuries.
Right.
And once we get closer to the terminal rate, which we are getting closer to, I was looking at Goldman Sachs's analysis. They think that the first rate cuts won't happen until calendar Q4 of next year. So that's this time next year. And the betting odds say that rate hikes are unlikely for the rest of this calendar year. And I think, the Fed is going to be just kind of waiting and seeing what happens with unemployment and some of the other.
So you're in 1 month, 3 month, 12 month?
I currently just have 3 month.
Okay.
I have some 6 month as well. For funds that we collected at the start of the fiscal year that I know we won't need until the back half of the fiscal year. Because the beauty of the December and well, really January tax collection is we start getting taxes in December. So we don't actually need as much when I was looking at some of the historical balance information. So I was able to go out a little bit longer with some of the July tax funds compared to the December and January money. I can't go out as far because we're likely going to need it before the fiscal year end.
And you're generally getting what for a percent?
So I just bought a $20 million 3-month treasury for 5.5%.
Wow. Okay. Well done.
And that was like 3 weeks ago or so, but that money we're going to need towards the tail end of this calendar year. I have, sometimes, interestingly, once you get to the year point between 1 year and 18 months, sometimes CDs actually offer better rates than treasuries. So we do have a little under 4 million in CDs simply when we have cash available. I call up UBS and Janney. I have them source, options for me. And then we see, okay, there are some CDs available. Obviously, you can't do more than 250,000 in any individual CD. And I ensure that we between the two accounts that we don't have multiple of the same CD, because then you're going to exceed the FDIC limit. So there's a little bit of cross-referencing and reconciliation I have to do. But by and large, the treasuries are where the action is now. You'll see here in terms of total cash, we do have 33 million right now, or that was at the end of the quarter, September 30th. And that's because, again, this is money that we're going to need over the next 2 or so months. We typically spend around 12 to 14 million a month. And it also, another dependency is capital project expenses. If we start paying for these expenses before we go out and bond out of our own coffers, then our monthly expense might be higher than the typical month. Where for operating purposes, generally around 12 to 14 million seems to be the range. So in terms of year to date, and again, we've only had one quarter. I included quarter one of last fiscal year just to show the huge difference. So you'll see here, we've already earned almost $725,000 in just the first 3 months of the year. I believe the Board of Finance budgeted $900,000 for the full fiscal year. So we're really close.
We were that low? Wow. I didn't realize we were so low. I thought we budgeted a little.
Did it go up to $1 million? I remember 900,000.
What's our budget for interest income for the year, Josh? For this year coming? No, this year, 24. This current year. I'll take you over on $1 million.
No, that's yours.
Yeah, so it's 900, and my understanding.
The year, Josh, 900. Okay, so you're going to beat that by 3x.
It's looking promising.
Good job.
I think the main reason for that, there was, that number includes a market adjustment for realized and unrealized losses that our accountants require us to essentially take unrealized losses and combine that with interest income, even though they're two very different things.
Really?
Yes. And so because last year we had this situation where we had a lot of unrealized losses in these agency securities that, are yielding 1.5 to 2%. Now yields are much better. So the value of those securities have dropped. And that negative or that unrealized loss was being combined with the interest income to cause the total budgeted amount to be less.
So do they
explain?
Do they make you mark an unrealized loss for a security that you're going to hold to maturity?
Yeah,
I believe that's correct.
Is that right?
Right.
We won't be sold at a loss.
We never sell them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. So they mature. So it's
right.
a hypothetical
so we get our entire
loss.
principal back.
Yeah.
Right. So the unrealized loss is on paper.
Right. Exactly.
We never realize a loss.
Right. That's what I was getting at.
Which is why it's a weird accounting thing, which is why I think we had landed on the 900.
Oh, so that understands.
I see.
Your
It just distorted it on the low end.
Right.
It's incredible.
Because of the agency securities will be on our books at the end of this year. That's going to negate some of the actual earnings that will have come in, even though it doesn't actually.
Not on a cash flow basis.
Count our interest.
For cash reasons, it's actually not going to impact it at all.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
It's more of an accounting thing, but I just wanted to call that out.
So just make sure we understand, just to review the bidding, a lot of numbers going around, $900,000 budget.
$900,000 budget.
What's your crystal ball tell you we're going to earn as a town this year?
I'm
not putting numbers in your head.
Not including
2.8 million.
The unrealized loss, because we're not going to have a loss.
We're not going to have a loss.
I'm estimating close to 2 million. You think it's going to be higher?
Well, you did 725 in the quarter. I mean,
right. So
my second grade math teacher would say
that looks
probably going to be more like 2.8 million. But.
Right. So I think the reason why I'm being cautious is because I don't know in terms of our cash in our accounts and upcoming projects.
Fair enough.
When we go and bond and reimburse ourselves.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The capital projects account at Chase is only yielding 2.9%, which is materially different from the 5% that I was able to get. Webster recently, they upped it.
Okay.
I have another call in to see if they'll come up again. So that we can earn a decent return on the cash. And again, this is fully collateralized cash.
Right.
Only the pooled cash account is the one that's 10% collateralized. So,
okay.
A very tiny fraction of our overall cash is not fully insured, but.
So we'll check again in January and see where we are. Sounds like you'll have a good fall.
Yes.
And we'll see. Things are always changing too. Okay.
Would you say that, is your hesitation to go longer than a year? I guess I just would like to know more about that.
Opinion of one. I think we could ask everybody here, and we could talk to our financial advisors and experts as well. But I think that there is always some concern that rates actually could go higher. And now that seems tempered today, but it wasn't tempered 3 weeks ago. So I think how you're playing it is just fine. I think we try to get greedy, we make a mistake. Remember, this isn't our money, so let's just be very careful. What you're doing is perfect, and I wouldn't play any games and try to get that extra few bips. It doesn't get us anything with any risk. So.
I will say we do have like 500,000 in a 2-year. That's the longest I'm out on it.
All right, whatever.
What's going on with Janney? So it seems like there's a pretty big balance in Janney, but the interest,
so that balance went up. That's a good question. So the balance just went up by 20 million when I bought the 3-month treasury about a month ago. So we're not going to see the yield from that treasury until it matures. So unlike agency issued securities where they're paying us generally monthly or sometimes quarterly interest, the treasuries, you get it all at the end. So right now the interest income is looking very low for the balance, but we're going to get a very big chunk of interest in November.
I see.
So in the next time I come, you'll see that there will be a big spike for Janney because of that.
Good. Any other questions? Ann, you're happy? This is working well from your cash flow and cash management point of view as well? Good. Yep.
There's an extra 20 invested now for 6 months.
Good. Fantastic.
By November, December, and we get back out in January, February for another 6 months. We do have that 20 million that can.
Well done.
That can go a lot quicker than the other.
Yep. And I will point out too, you'll see compared to last year, we now have more Webster money market accounts because Ann segregated out the general funds, sewer grants. And so now those are all earning 5% interest, but we do need that cash to be liquid in case there are expenses that come in relating to those funds. But that's why you'll see that now there are more Webster funds on here than before. This also does not include the Bankwell account. You might see that one dropped off. We did draw that down pretty substantially. I did not include in here any accounts that are under $500,000 just because you're going to be looking at a big spreadsheet. So I wanted to simplify it. But the reason for that is the rates for the IntraFi account were less than 5%. And since we're getting full collateralization in the Webster money market, it didn't make sense to keep, to earn less interest when we're achieving the same thing in terms of protecting the cash.
Okay. Any questions?
I was just going to ask, Webster's a regional bank, and the regional banks were kind of shaky back there. And I understand it's all FDIC insured, which is great. But is there any thought of like spreading the risk a little bit by having more accounts with other banks that would offer similar interest rates?
You know about the IntraFi?
I'm sorry, no.
So why don't you walk through what that is?
Sure. Although we're not using it as much now. But the IntraFi network they essentially place funds in $250,000 increments or less into multiple, network banks. There are 2,000 community banks, all FDIC member banks that are part of this network. And so that's actually what helped us when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. We had a sub account there. Again, I didn't get to pick which banks. IntraFi does that for me. But it was under 250. So they shut down on Friday. The 250 was moved to another sub account by that Monday. I think we lost out on the interest over the weekend, unfortunately, but I think it was like $200 in interest that we didn't get because that happened. But again, that was the beauty of that program. In terms of Webster, so it's not all FDIC insured. We have full collateralization in the form of treasuries and other assets of Webster that are collateralizing our deposits above the FDIC limit. And it's a program that they only offer to municipalities. So other municipalities have access to this 100% collateralization program. Other customers cannot get into this. And you're right, we are very concentrated at Webster. I mean, it's really a decision for Anne that we pay all of our bills out of our main operating accounts. And so it's more of a convenience to be able to draw down from the money market, move it into pooled cash to pay the bills, when they come due, versus have to worry about doing intrabank transfers, which can take time. With the IntraFi network, unfortunately, sometimes it would take 2 to 3 days for funds to go from our account there over to Webster.
Oh, look, it's a good question. I think maybe when you come back in January, we ought to answer, are things too concentrated there? And what else could we do to have something in some other bank? Now, ultimately, it has to get to Webster to pay the bills. This is your point. Yeah. So we should look at that. I mean, it's collateralized. I know you and Bob went through all that, so we feel good there, but why not have what would be an alternative?
Frankly, the rates are the best that I've been able to find there. When I talk to some of the other banks.
But again, if it's at risk, it doesn't make anybody happy.
Right.
That's the point.
Right.
It isn't about the last.
The thing is, they want our full relationship to give us these preferred rates because our relationships at Webster, they're giving us
Andrew,
the best rate.
Preaching to the choir. We get it.
Yeah.
But if $30 million is at risk, all that goes away times 1,000. Okay, this is the answer to have come back with us. Should there be something else that we look at? And I think that's a fair question.
Thanks, Andrew.
Good. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Great job. Thank you.
Thank
you.
2.5.
2.5.
Okay. Where are we here? Affordable Housing Committee. So next item on the agenda. So we have, do you want to explain what you get? The Board of Selectmen have a committee put together. Maybe you could share what the makeup is.
Why don't you have the town council chair? They created the committee.
Yeah.
So
sure. You've got a.
How are you?
We're great. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
You're making me work tonight.
Yep.
My night off.
Sorry.
All right. So Affordable Housing Committee.
That's why I don't show up at your meeting, because the next thing you do, I got to stand there and answer questions.
All right, Affordable Housing Committee is, we've got 4 members from appointed boards and commissions. So we have a member from the town council, a member from this board, a member from the Affordable Housing Committee, or building affordable. What's the proper housing authority, and planning and zoning. So out of those 4, we have Hillary Orman from town council. We have remind me, the housing committee is who's coming on?
Mike Sweeney.
Mike Sweeney from the affordable housing. Then we had Maria Weingarten is the nominee for your group, and Kristen Nielsen from planning and zoning. So those are the 4 members that are elected or appointed. We then have 5 members to go through the Board of Selectmen to comprise the rest of the committee. So that's where we are. So we still need the official approval for your member tonight. We're hoping we can get that through the Board of Selectmen within the next couple of weeks. If they can't come to a decision, we'll just punt it to the new Board of Selectmen. But happy to take any questions or.
Well, I've nominated Maria. She volunteered and reached out to me, and I suggested that I agreed. I think she'd be a terrific member of that committee. And so what I wanted to do was get actually approval and support from this board for Anna Maria.
I will so move. I think we're lucky to have her. I mean, she knows more about this than anyone I know. So where would we come up with anyone better?
Well, and you all understand the background of having, it's one of the only committees or commissions that actually takes one member from each of the most important boards and commissions and combines them onto one. And that's really for the communication back and forth to this board and the town council and others. So that's the reason we designed the ordinance like that and put that together. So we're really happy that we'll have members from each one of those.
So we're the 5 are from the community that have volunteered.
Community at large, right?
That you're still reviewing and.
Well, so we've got the names to the Board of Selectmen. They're interviewing the candidates at the moment, and where it stands, I think the interviews have taken place. But Kevin can talk about that. But I think it's just a matter of figuring out those last 5 positions, because with the 4 in place, then we have the 5 at large.
And who recruited them if not the town council or the Board of Selectmen?
It was it was an ask, and the names just came in, and we're so lucky that we really, like we did with the Utilities Commission, we actually had more people step up for the committee than we had slots, which is really unusual. I mean, it's really amazing. So, we want to thank everybody that stepped up, obviously. So.
Is there any kind of a developed framework for how Maria might come back and report to us? Is there like a periodic something that this, Affordable Housing Committee would do that we could expect, or is it just ad hoc? Maria, you'd work with Todd and get it on the agenda when it made sense to do so?
I mean, that's early, Tom. That's a great question, but I think the committee needs to get seated and then talk about how they're going to interface with their members back to their respective boards. But initially, there was talk about at the council level financial help for this committee. I mean, actually giving these folks a budget and giving them some teeth to try to get out, do some consulting work, get information out there, and start to develop ideas about funding a fund, for affordable housing. So those are all the things that they're going to be tackling. So hopefully we'll see that coming over the next year. And that's what you guys.
As I said, I recommend Maria, like your support, and like the motion to approve Maria.
I have a question. So when I was running for office last year, there was a sign that came out 2 days before Election Day, and it said, "Want to save Weed Street? Vote Republican." And so my question is, in terms of objectivity, are you going to be able to look at the perspectives of all the stakeholders involved around affordable housing? Because it is one of the key issues in the town.
I don't see it as a Republican or Democrat issue per se. I see it as, I'm involved with CT 169 Strong, where we are looking for good solutions. So I've taken the time to look at all of the towns around us. So I've been talking to Greenwich, and I've been talking to Westport and Darien. So it's really about finding good solutions that work for our town. And that's not party related.
So in that sign, so what does it mean to save Weed Street?
Hey, Victor, I don't think Maria put the sign up.
I mean, he was on the board of the RTC.
Well, that doesn't mean she put the sign up. Come on. I think that's it seems a little unfair. You're kind of it's okay to ask the question. It was a good answer I thought you had, but I don't think this is an opportunity to interrogate.
But to your point, Victor, I mean, I think that, of course, we have a lot of different opinions about a lot of different subjects in town, but this is the one subject, and I can honestly say the one subject that everybody agrees on. I mean, it's really, we all know that we want to get this problem solved, and we just got to figure out how we're going to solve it. I mean, everybody can agree. We got to move it forward. So that's where we are.
Yeah, and I think was the real estate background, and she volunteered. But that was really the thinking behind it. I didn't mean to interrupt your question, but I think I'd be careful to go too far with that. It's not Maria's fault that someone put a sign up.
I'm asking about objectivity. Are all the
I think she answered it. She did.
Going to be.
I did. I answered it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's.
I have faith in Maria being, I think, independent on that, and I think she'll come and report back as to where we are and what's going on to this board. I think, and I'll make sure that happens for sure. But it wasn't.
And I would say that there's a difference between A30G and what we're trying to do as well.
All right.
Okay,
I think.
yeah, I have a motion and I asked for the motion.
I will say, I don't
Judy.
think anyone else raised their hand, right?
Yeah.
So,
I made the motion.
no, I don't think anyone else raised their hand on this board to take this on. So,
Yeah.
you know, Maria did, so that's great.
Yeah, I mean, thank
So
you.
I'm just saying, nobody else was
Yeah.
fighting for the position, so.
She wasn't voluntold, which does happen. She volunteered. She wasn't drafted. So, okay, so we have motion. Judy, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor, say aye.
Do I vote for mine?
Opposed? None? Thank you. Okay. And Victor, thanks for the question. I think it's a fair question, and we all just have to make sure the committee does its job that way as well. So,
And thank you for your participation. You're going to be an important part of this going forward. So
Yeah, and I think we really would be interested in, once it's up and running, what the milestones are, and hearing back is.
well, that's one of the things that the council has done. Anytime we have a big project like the library committee comes to mind, we report every month back, what's the update, and give an update. And I would expect that Maria would be bringing some of those things back to you as well. So.
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. I'll come to your next meeting. Okay, a couple items on finances and so forth. Budget discussion. So I wouldn't, like to get some thoughts on, and the guidance I think for you is, what do we think from a tax point of view? Amount raised by taxation is always a good thing to think about, because that drives the revenue coming in, which can help drive the budget. I'd like to see that be in the -1, in other words, reduce taxes, to maybe a +2. What was the amount raised by taxation in this budget? Just 2.5?
160, something like that. Revenues were 159.
Yeah.
But that could have not.
No, that's not just the amount raised by
It's too high,
taxation, though. Yeah.
Because we had 6 million in.
Josh knows what I'm looking for. Amount to be raised by taxation. So I think, and that was with conveyance fees down and so forth. Yeah. 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 But then we offset it with the general fund. That's why we kept the mill rate up,
So we kept
the fraction that it went up. That's the difference. So I think, the question really then is, can we have the amount raised by taxation? I guess we need to think about it net of that, all of the way we do the budget. So the total increase in the mill rate was what percent?
That was 4.4.
4.4. So the question would be then, what are we thinking in this cycle from a guidance point of view?
I remind you that Sebi, our assessor, said that he expects the grand list to come in at over $10 billion.
I know.
Which will send our mill rate back down in the 13s.
Yep.
From 18 plus. So,
well, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out by house, right, and by area. Some will benefit from that. Others' valuations will go up, and
a lot of the $4 and $5 and $6 million houses that have sold are really breaking. Will bring up the slack.
Yep.
So their values will go up.
Yeah.
Which means even though with a lower mill rate, they may not see things. Their taxes wouldn't be flat. It wouldn't be a wash. Their taxes will go up.
Their taxes are going up.
Yeah. Okay.
Depends on where you sit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
your car taxes will go down.
Right. We're it's the old saying, we're all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. Okay. So I think the question for this team, this group, is to think from a amount raised by taxation. What are we thinking? And obviously low single digits. We've got inflation. We do have headwinds. We know where there's issues. Andrew's going to beat his budget. I don't know about, do you have first quarter for us, by the way? So I'd love to get the insight on conveyance.
I think our CBAs are still locked for next year. We don't have a CBA opening up, do we? So I think the police, the fire, and everybody's still.
Teachers still, one more.
Yeah. So,
but that's all 3%.
Unlike the auto workers.
Unlike the auto workers. Yeah. Well, they're asking for a lot more than just salary increase.
Right.
So I'm putting on the table something kind of very low single digits from an increase in taxes, maybe again, TBD, but anywhere from maybe -1 to +3. That gives you a sense in terms of from an expense point of view where we might be. It's guidance. We have to work through everything.
-1 to 2.
I don't think we, I mean, I think
I
we have to have a
don't know.
range. We can't pick a number. It's at this point, we have to put a range out there, but so if that's the case, you're talking about expenses increasing 2-3%.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I see what you're saying. You're trying to put some discipline in place, but there are
Some guidance. I mean, I think we're just
big
trying
chunks of the budget are just what they are.
They are what they
You
are.
know, They
That's
just
right.
are,
That's right.
fuel's gonna be what it's gonna be, salaries are gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
You never quite know what's gonna happen with health insurance because it's health insurance.
And the economy's.
So it's kind of, it's like a balance, right?
Yeah.
It's like a dance.
I can't see the Board of Ed asking for 2%, just based on past years.
Yeah, but maybe they should.
Well, remember, 70% of their costs are locked in at 3. And so, you know, their operating wasn't an issue. Actually, their if I remember, their operating request ex healthcare was actually very reasonable.
Yeah.
So,
And we do know we have some jumps in some of the budgets by bringing people on.
I think Tigard is the one who asks for this the most. What is the guidance he needs? Because he does have capital. He does have, you know, there's expenditure and things like that. So, you know, I think giving him guidance in that 2 or 3% range is probably something to think about. Getting any other input from this side of the table?
Yeah, and it's just guidance too, because someone gets
exactly.
say this is what it is, but you know, I'd have to cut services or X, Y, and Z, and you know, so it's.
And I think
That's the purpose of it. Literally to do what you
Mm-hmm.
just said.
Yeah.
It's to put something out there so that they can react to it and tell us what it means, what the impact is.
I think Tiger and his public works seem to be more inflation sensitive than a lot of the other.
Sure.
So I just expect him, you know, as good a job as he does, we should just be prepared for that.
Okay.
Yep.
So I would also just kind of add to it in terms of when I'm reaching out to the departments and asking for their preliminary budgets. You know, on a town department operation side for 24, we had 32.4 million was the number for the town operations. In terms of basically like fixed cost salaries, you know, for next year, that's something closer to 25 or so million. There's really only about 9 million or so of wiggle room. And some of that are benefits and health and so on. So it's really the vast majority, which is fixed. It's kind of is what it is if we're increasing any staff or pay raises and so on. So it's really us telling the departments with that smaller chunk, what's the guidance for that? Yeah.
Well, for lack of anything else, I think giving them 2 to 3 is probably a reasonable number to start with and see where they come in. I mean, some departments, as we know, last year were negative or flat. So
I think that might be the case as well this year. But
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we've never really given hard guidance for that for a lot of the reasons we just talked about, and we work it out during the process. So, okay. All right. Well, any other thoughts on that? I just want to make sure we'd at least if there was any burning platform or anything. Okay. Let's move on to the financial update then. 2 things, one year to date, but also the 2023 wrap up you've got.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. So I will put on the screen just for reference sake. One of these.
And while he's doing that audit update, we would do in December.
Yes.
That fair? Okay.
The audit
okay.
statement then.
Okay.
All right. So on the screen is the preliminary still until the audit's completed. Year-to-date financials as of the end of the year for 23. But in front of you, you have a kind of bullet point highlights of what kind of transpired through the year and how we kind of ended up where we ended up now. And a lot of these are really trends that you've kind of been following as the year has gone by. So this is just kind of how they've, you know, ended up. So starting on the revenue side for the year, it ended at 159.4 million, which is 2.1% over, or 3.35 million over what was budgeted this year.
That seems more than you were thinking. Is that about where we were in June, May?
I think we.
FEMA and
that surprised
I think
me
there are
a
a couple
little.
things on this list that were not surprises, but additions later on.
Got nearly 600,000 in total in
FEMA and COVID reimbursements.
FEMA and COVID, they opened, U.S. Treasury opened to go back.
Okay.
So it's all prior year related stuff, but
So $3.3 million
surplus
in revenues.
So, and
That's
that's
terrific.
due to beyond the what was budgeted, 863,000 an increase of investment income due to the higher interest rates, and additional 20 million being invested, and the use of ZBAs now.
Hey, can we break that out now instead of burying it in other?
Which
the interest income?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
that needs to be broken out. It's too big. For when it was $87,000. It was literally other, but it's not literally other anymore. I mean, it's almost bigger than the rest of these items, right? So let's have it in there. Yep, thanks.
Tax collections over budgeted by 2.06 million. Kerma, our general insurance member equity, came in at 121,000. Building permits were up 142,000 over budgeted. And like Ann had said, prior year FEMA and COVID reimbursements came in at 385 and 343,000 each. So that kind of makes up that difference there. This kind of makes up for the lower conveyance fees and recording fees of 373,000. That's combined.
You're reading 373. My printout says 335.
335 for just conveyance fees, recording fees taken into account.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Okay.
Well,
that's a big hit. I mean, that's a really significant drop in conveyance fees.
It ended at 83% of what was budgeted.
Yep.
So, and as well as a lower than anticipated and previously budgeted excess cost grant received lower by 385,000. So that's how we ended up at 3.35 on the revenue side of things. Over on the expense side of things, we ended the year at 160.7 million, under budget by 830,000, or about 0.5%. Debt service was 226,000 under what was budgeted because we didn't go to market in FY23. Board of Ed came in at 581,000 under what was budgeted. Insurance liability premiums were also 129,000 under what was budgeted. Parks and Rec administration was under budget by 217, and fire department was under budget by 237 because of their OT lines, injury, sick, and full-time salary line as well.
So net total $4.2 million surplus. I had to just put in the 3.3 plus the 900-ish.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Right. So
I'm gonna get Andrew back here to add it up if we don't.
And Josh, remember, what were do we have as line item for contribution from the general fund? Did we have 6 last year? Do you guys remember?
I said 5.5.
Last year was 5.5.
5.5, and so we're 4. So we're only using one and a half. Okay.
Yeah, that was 1, 2. And
you were going to provide us that little history.
That would be really interesting.
I thought we were going to remember every last 5 or 6 years we put away 4 million and we end up having a surplus and we use 300,000 or $1 million or whatever. Yeah. Can we do that for November?
Yeah,
it'd be good to know because as we go into the cycle again, we'd like to.
I think it's something we've done maybe every year, taking a look at it.
Yeah,
I remember.
Not too hard.
Yeah,
but it's important because when you put that number in to buy down the mill rate, you could say you're going to next year with a $6 million deficit, but if we have a history of using very little, it's a safe move.
That's right.
Right, because when we talk about unassigned fund balance and we get a little nervous because we're doing 5.5, but then you realize it's really only.
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So just finishing it off, it's our projected outcome was 300,000 to 400,000 to the good. On the town side, we ended up about 311 under, and the Board of Ed was, like I said, 581. Notable lines that ran over budget were police needed 369,000 to cover overtime for open positions, compounded with not realizing the budgeted salary savings line of 142. Legal fees also went over by 214,000 due to the ongoing 3080G. And so, like we kind of had said, we had budgeted the 5.5 million, but only plan on drawing down 1.25-ish.
Those legal fees were for, is that 830G? Or 30-.
Yeah. 830G, sorry.
That's 830G.
Well, probably among other things, but certainly that was
the primary.
Yeah, that was the primary for sure. Yep. Okay.
Good.
Okay. Any questions on good year? 4 million. I mean, that's terrific. At 4.3. That's great. Okay.
So on to
And did you print this out? I don't have a, do I have a copy of the,
Of this,
I
or
don't know, of the year to date? I don't think I had a copy. Thank you. Thank you. I just need one
Well, one September and one's East.
piece.
all right. All right. So these are the year-to-dates as of Q1. I'd also kind of emphasize that, you know, since we're in the middle of the audit and getting things together, there's a lot that we probably are in the midst of booking and adding into it. So these are, I would even say, preliminary in terms of year-to-date financials. So the revenue side is at 52%, 52.3%. And this really is taking into account the first tranche of tax collections, which puts us at 54% of what was anticipated for tax collections. This is about, I think it is 1.75 ahead of our pace, 1.75% ahead of our pace in terms of tax collections of where we were at this point last year. Also the 2.2, the total revenues are outpacing last year at this time by 2.25% ahead of that pace. And in terms of conveyance fees, we're at 30%, 31% of what was budgeted, or 474,000. That's taking into account, I believe, the first half of the fiscal year has some of the higher conveyance fees.
It's actually running behind last year. Interesting.
Is running behind last year by 161,000.
I mean, our budget was less. I mean, here we are. We took it down to $1.5 million.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same month. Same month.
No, it's
right?
apples and apples.
That's what I wonder. It is
Cute.
apples and apples. All right.
But we're further from when the peak was for when we were selecting. Parking is slightly down, but I know for a fact that there's a couple 100,000 that's still waiting to be booked into there.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't think there's any notable.
Well, where's his $700,000? It should be in other, which you're now going to break out.
So September isn't fully closed yet. So there's interest that still needs to be booked in our books.
Oh.
He's pulling straight from the statement. So you would see it.
You'd see it pretty much on the last page, which
Other.
takes into account other, which will be on the first page in the future. And it should be all the way at the bottom, second to last, which is 323 right now is in our books, but it is probably likely closer to the 700 figure that was
So we're running well ahead of last year for
We are.
revenue.
Yeah. From a total revenue perspective. we are.
Interesting. Okay.
We pulled the money quicker from tax revenues.
Is that
So
what-
they didn't stay in the money market as long as last year. So this year we pulled it as soon as like probably the end of July.
Okay.
We pulled money out and invested it. It didn't go out till September of last year. Then we pulled some more money out again, I believe in August.
Oh, you mean for interest?
For interest.
Oh, I know. I
and
got that.
investment.
It was
sorry.
still, no, but I just saying overall, I mean, still running.
So we should.
Yeah, that
be-
700,000, you're almost $3 million better from a revenue point of view. That's interesting. So say again? Yeah.
And reach for her.
Yeah.
That's part of it. Okay.
Yeah. And on the revenue side, on the expense side, we're totaling at 18.8%, which is slightly ahead of our pace last year, which I think was about 17%, 18%. But the interesting thing I think is in terms of an actuals, it's about almost identical of where we were last year, 27.9 or so million. Whereas this year we've budgeted, 5 or so million more in expected expenses.
Okay. So a solid start.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. What else do you have? Let's see. Do you have some line items to approve?
Just none to approve now.
Just to review?
None to approve. There are just 2 small line items to review.
Those are small.
Yep, they're pretty small.
75,000
and 1,500. Nothing really to speak of there. Just a stage in a training being moved around. But that's it. That's all I have for you.
Any questions for Ann or Josh?
No.
Okay, thank you both. That was terrific. Meeting schedule. I don't know if anybody took a look at it. Any questions? I'd like to approve the calendar. Hey, Tucker, did you have anything to bring up? We're good? Yep. So we do, our November meeting again is the 14th, right? Is that right? 14th? 14th.
We always do 5 meetings in February.
Mm-hmm.
It's for budget. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because it's a leap year.
We should do 6. Good point. Thank you, Victor. We could add one more day. Yeah, we always do 5.
Can't make this
2 1 week, 2 1 week, and then
a couple in early March.
Yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay, well then a motion to approve this calendar of meetings 2024.
Motion.
Motion, Maria, second.
Second.
Excellent, Victor. All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? You abstaining?
No.
Okay. So move. All right. Any other business?
We can go back to the minutes because
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Tiger that said that. Okay, so are they wrong? I mean, did he take that out of context? Yeah, I know it.
So Tiger was the one
Yeah.
who said it subsequently.
Well, hang on. Amy had
I just want to make sure.
she had the question. Amy, do you have an amendment that you want to add to this?
I'm going to pull it back up. Hold on, give me a second.
Yeah, hang on a second. Let's get it right.
Could say something like Mr. Mann.
Yes.
Further
Yeah, just-
advised.
Well, we could, yeah.
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 And then it makes clear where the subsequent came from.
Okay. Do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay, so can we have a motion to approve the minutes with that amendment, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Second, Amy, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion, Maria, second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
You bet.
Aye. Opposed? None. Good. Thank you all. Good meeting.
You.